All right, we are now live.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's very exciting to get this going and to have this conversation today and to talk to everyone about the power of a positive team. I see the participants are getting into the session, so I'm going to let a little bit of that happen before we kick off. But how are you doing, John?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about sharing these principles of the power of a positive team. It's important to know that when you are developing a positive team, you're going to face adversity and challenges. And we were just talking about how we had so many different hiccups and setups leading into this webinar. But you know what? We were just talking about it. You stay positive as a team, and then you move through it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's always a chance to get stronger through those things. So welcome everyone. John and I are both very excited about this, and we've been preparing for quite some time and ready to just get started and dig in. So one of the things that we'll be doing is we're going to talk about just the model that we've built around the proven principles and practices of the power of positive team. And that model was built to organize those principles and practices in a way that we could bring that to teams and help to make them stronger, more united, more connected, and really unlock that power inside the teams. So we're going to start off with something that John and I have really enjoyed when we've been working with teams, just the idea that we talk to them about this fact. The fact is that no one creates success alone, right, John? You talk about that at the beginning of the book, and it's really fun and exciting to see that even during sessions with teams in our consulting work, pretty much unanimous agreement on this fact. And people share its personal life, in their work life, in their team that they might play on, a sports team, professional teams, casual teams. And it's great to see how that is absolutely true for every individual. And John, why do you think it's so important to start with that fundamental when you're talking about teams?
Well, because we all need a team to be successful. No one creates success alone. So we are better together. And then together we accomplish amazing things. Let's look at the Super Bowl. Tom Brady's considered the best quarterback of all time, the greatest of all time. Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time. But they wouldn't be great without each other. They needed each other to be great. By themselves, they would have been really good and great in some aspects, but maybe not the greatest ever. So they made each other great. I think about my wife and my team at home. I am who I am because of her. I wouldn't be the success I am. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't have her support. I know that your husband helps make you great. You make a great team, and that's what makes you unique and special and stronger. So being together and having a team around you makes you stronger and makes you better. There's this myth that, of the individual conquering and achieving, and yet you look at every great CEO, every great leader, every great film director of every great movie, they will tell you that filmmaking is a team sport. Success is a team sport. So we all need a team. And it's about how can we come together to be a great team. Everybody wants to be a great team, but they don't really know how to be a great team. And that's what we share in this book and in our programs, our workshops, and our consulting. How do we become a great team? And then we help teams do that. I know you and I both share a mission to help build stronger teams, and that's why we're doing this. There's no other reason but to create stronger teams so that people can enjoy more success together and not allow the division that so often sabotages teams.
Yes, it is a shared mission, and that's all of that passion and all of that fuel that we've put behind that mission and the vision of just creating more of the powerful, positive teams that unite and connect individuals is what drove the model. You see, I've got some questions coming in. I want to address we're going to get to a point in the webinar where we'll actually talk about some of the questions that came in advance. And for the people that are asking, you will definitely get access to a recording of this webinar when we're finished, as well as some materials at the end that include things like, you see the power of a positive team model behind me. And we're going to be talking through not all of the proven principles and practices today, but definitely starting to talk about what are the things that you do in relation to this model that actually build those stronger, more connected teams. Because as Jon said, it's inevitable. It is absolutely inevitable that some challenge is going to come your way. And that's actually the time when teams get to come together and get stronger. So just answering, we will have a recording and we'll also have materials that come out. And we are glad to know, and we've seen that no one creates success alone. And that's kind of, I wanted to, you know who Jon is, and there's been a little bit about me, and we're not going to stay on us for very long, but it is the reason we're here today is we're a team. And we came together because of that shared vision and shared purpose. And in order to move forward toward that North Star that we call, the North Star is one by one, building stronger, more connected, more united, more positively powerful teams, and using the proven principles and practices in Jon's book, putting it into a model that we can then work with teams and use that as a backdrop for how they progress and how they grow and how they build resilience and grit and get prepared for ever greater results and success. So we met because I was working at a business, and that business had a huge goal that it seemed almost, it didn't seem like it was likely to happen. And through some different interactions and through using some of the principles and practices that are in the book, really saw astronomically larger than expected results financially, and also saw a stronger team because of what occurred, which was just an amazing thing to happen. So Jon and I joined forces, and we're a team. And now everyone on this call is a part of that same shared vision and that mission that we're on together. So we're going to walk through a few of these different these are some of the proven principles that are in the book, and some of the things that are established as foundational when it comes to positive teams and building those. And we're just going to touch on some of the things inside the model and walk through some suggestions for you, because I know a lot of the questions were, I understand what is being said, how do I do it, right? And that's why you write the book, right, Jon? Is the how.
Exactly. We have to give people the practical tips and process that allows them to do this.
Mm-hmm. So it's also, when we were talking about better together, it's really interesting to see that when you're talking about no one creates success alone, the team is the star. And when the team is the star, you do have a competitive advantage, because when you're serving each other as a team and you actually get these principles and practices activated inside whatever your team is. You know, Jon mentioned that we both have great married teams, we have family teams, we have sports teams and work teams, for-profit and nonprofit. And when the team is actually at the center of it all and everyone is working with and for each other, that's when those amazing results start to happen. And that's when you're moving toward that vision, which is your North Star. And you notice that we've got that star coming up quite a bit in our discussion about teams, because it is all about everyone on the team, not one individual. Have you noticed that to be true on some of the best high performing teams that you've worked with?
Oh, totally. And you know, sharing this model, you look at culture. It all starts with a team creating a culture. Your most important job as a team is to create the culture of your team. And it's important to know that everyone on the team creates the culture of it. It's not just the leader. Everyone is contagious with their energy. So you're either a germ or a big dose of vitamin C. You're either giving positive energy or negative energy. So you create that culture. And then a key part of creating your culture is what we share is the C's, is communicating, connecting, committing, and caring. And that's what allows you to build great relationships in a strong team. But then what you see in the other part of the model is the shared vision and greater purpose. Every team has to have a vision of where they're going and why they're going there. They have to stay positive on the journey together, because so often we give up because we get discouraged. Not because it's hard, but we get discouraged. So we stay positive as a team. I have found working with teams, for instance, the Miami Heat, they started 11-30 a few years ago. They finished 30-11 the second half of the season. Eric Spoelstra was named Coach of the Year. They just missed the playoffs, and yet he did an incredible job of keeping that team together And one of their keys to success was that they just stayed positive while other teams were giving up and just saying, you know what, we're done, not just going through the motions. This team stayed positive and optimistic about what they were creating. And so we see that over and over again, that the real key is that can we just stay positive through the journey? Alan Mulally, when he turned around Ford, we talked about him and the power of positive leadership, but it was his team and him that stayed positive together through the recession, through losing $14 billion, through all of the adversity and challenges, all the external opposition and circumstances. They stayed positive on the inside, and then they created success on the outside. So staying positive is key. But as you know, Amy, we also have to make sure we remove negativity, because it's not just about feeding the positive. We have to weed the negative, because so often negativity will sabotage a team. One person can't make a team, but one person can break a team. So we have to make sure we deal with that. And then we create an environment where we can do now our best work. When we feed the positive, weed the negative, we now do our best work as a team by what? Creating great relationships. Your job is to build great relationships. And that's where the communication, the connection, the commitment and caring comes in. And then great teams are always striving to get better. They're continuously improving. We're going to share some ways they do that in this webinar, but they're always improving. They're always striving towards excellence. They see where they can improve. They see where they can get better. And so they know that they're here to pursue greatness. It's not just about being positive together, which is important, but it's about what are we here to do to create greatness together? What are we here to do to really build something special and unique? And they know that they're here to do something amazing.
Yes, it is exciting. And I think most of the questions that we get when we're working with organizations and are around, how do I make this happen? And, that's what we will and are talking about as we move through some of these things today. And it's something that you can't shy away from when you're looking at continuous improvement. Some of the things that have to happen in order for a team to get stronger and more connected, they come through, regular communication, commitment to connecting, and there's no formula other than putting in the effort and looking at a model like this and really dedicating and committing yourself to the continuous pursuit of ever greater effectiveness as an organization and as a team. And it has to be a part of your culture, like you said. It creates a competitive advantage. And when teams are committed to moving through any type of model or make practices and principles the center of what they're doing, they know that through that continuous pursuit and the discipline and dedication of prioritizing the team, they're going to be a stronger team. And we're building stronger teams because of that. And in the end, it's proven. There's research mentioned in the book that comes from Duke University about being positive is not something that is just a state of mind. It's actually proven that successful business people, successful people who've achieved great things in life, and teams that are there with them, it's a competitive advantage when they bring to bear a positive mindset and positive practices and principles to the work they're doing as a team. So the teams that have that, not only does it feel better, which people always want to say, is there more than just a feeling to being positive? What does that mean? And it means that the team does have a power that gives them a competitive advantage when they need to call upon resilience and they need to conquer a challenge as a team. That particular discipline and the model is what helps them kind of succeed, rise above something, and then be better able to do the same thing in the future. So Jon mentioned that, culture and the importance of culture. And that's why it's kind of at the top of the star of the model, is even though there are many different things that have to happen, culture is not one thing, right, Jon? It's everything that a team does. And a lot of times when we're working with teams, even though people think they know what their culture is, when we sit down and we talk about who do you want to be? What do you want to accomplish together? What do you want to be known for? Even the most focused and organized teams have not really sat down and made sure that everyone is on the same page with that. And that's very important when it comes to culture, isn't it?
Totally. And Amy, you've worked with a number of teams. You've led teams in very large companies, some mergers, some acquisitions. some where you had to bring the leadership team together. I know you worked with Southwest Airlines recently on this, and also just with a recent company on their culture. I actually want to know from you, like, what was the one thing that you told them when you started working with them about their culture? Because you're working with organizations that have really good cultures, but they want to get even better with their culture. So what do you tell them when they want to get even better with their culture?
Sure. Well, a big step in looking at these models and working with those organizations and teams is looking at what is it you want to be known for, and what aspect of what your current kind of brand is internally and externally are you looking to strengthen and improve. And it's a very important aspect of your continuous improvement is to regularly do an inventory of your culture. Sometimes people have values that are stated, and they'll have a mission statement, and those are very important elements to make sure that there's clarity around who an organization is and what they want to do and the value that they drive. The thing that is most often an opportunity to is to go back and revisit that more than just every 5 years or every 10 years. And it's even if you're not changing anything, in working with those companies, we're saying, is this still who you want to be? What aspects of this are working? And again, people say, well, that sounds really simple. It is a simple idea, but it often gets overlooked, and you lose that extra competitive advantage in order to maintain the focus on that. So that comes up quite a bit, and it's a very productive exercise. And usually the leaders of the teams are the ones that are the most surprised, because when they hear their own team members talking about what they think the culture is and what they believe their vision and mission and is, they have a little bit of an aha moment, which we always talk about. That's a good thing. If you weren't aware that that's what is really coming out of your organization and your team, then you have to make adjustments, and there are opportunities in that. So
Love that.
Very important part of the working process.
Yeah, I love that. You have to know what you stand for, like you said, and then say, okay, let's make sure we're reinforcing it all the time. Like, we're talking about our culture. We're talking about our values. We're talking about our principles. We have to reinforce the culture continuously. Otherwise, the culture gets lost. Working with Clemson football and Dabo Sweeney, he has a book about this thick, like 18 inches thick, that is everything that is included in their culture, that what makes their culture unique and special. He spends 4 full days before training camp, meeting with his coaching staff, talking about what their culture is all about and how they got there. I said, you have to go through each page of that book to talk about it? He said, yes, because if we don't go through one thing and we forget it, we'll slowly, eventually lose our culture. It's called mission drift, right? You can't allow it to drift. You have to focus on the culture, what matters most. Some might consider that extreme. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm saying know what your culture stands for, focus on it, and then come together and say, what kind of culture do we want to create? Who do we want to be? Who do we truly want to be? What do we want to be known for? What do we want to stand for? And when a team knows that and they're working towards that culture together, they're going to be so much stronger. I remember Carrie Walsh Jennings told me, she and Misty May made up the greatest beach volleyball team of all time. And she said, we knew we wanted to be great together. We truly wanted to be great together. They had a culture of greatness that propelled them towards incredible success. So they had a very clear focus of what their culture was all about, what they wanted to be known for, and what they wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, and I want to address, there are some great questions coming in, and a lot of them, we compiled questions that came in advance, and we've got some spots further on in our content to address some of those questions. So a lot of the things that I'm seeing will come up. One of the things that pertains to culture, since we're currently talking about that, is in the book, it says that the most important job a team has is to create the culture. And not just any culture, but you've got to create that positive, effective, the right type of culture to propel your team. So we're communicating it, of revisiting that, the fact that we talk about an inventory of the culture. One of the questions that I think is worth bringing up before we move on to a different topic is, what do you do when there's the clash of the cultures? A lot of teams merge or get acquired, or, the two teams from different states become one team, whether it's a sports team or whether it's a family team or a work team. But definitely a lot of leaders have challenges when two different teams are told they've got to become one, and there were two different cultures before. And, to address that question, the way that you do that is you have to look at the specific situation. And I know you know that, but it's a process. And the being able to inventory and look at what are the values of the two different organizations, how do you create a mechanism for communication, how do you get those teams to connect? You have to be the leader, and you have to create a structure, and you have to make it clear, and you have to work the process, because it takes time. Building a culture, changing a culture, a lot of the research says it takes 18 to 24 to 36 months to really change a culture. And you do need to be methodical, and you have to bring a lot of that care that you see in the model, because there's a lot of fear when those cultural changes happen in companies, especially mergers and acquisition. There are a lot of people that have trouble with the piece of the model that talks about building trust and relationships, because that takes time. So you as the team leader has to look at the variables of your unique situation and find ways to build that trust through communication, through connection, through being as transparent as you can. And that is the only way. And there's no kind of formula for that complex human interaction that has to occur, but there is a model through this that will help you through the process and using those principles and practices. And I'm kind of switching back to our model in that question, because you do need to know what your North Star is. And we designed the Power of a Positive Team model and kind of the process to work with organizations to work around that star. Also because of the importance of knowing your North Star, where you're headed. And even in that last question, when you have two organizations, sometimes even more, sometimes there are three or more entities that are coming together, you really need to be clear on what the shared vision, the new shared vision is, what the North Star is, because everyone needs to see themselves as a part of that particular endeavor. You have to feel like you can communicate, you can connect, you can contribute to what's happening as a team, because everyone needs to be serving each other and everyone needs to be clear on where you're headed. So as far as having a North Star, I think that it is up to the leader to provide that. And there are actually aspects of what we do when we're talking about culture, and then when we talk about shared vision and greater purpose, the leader sometimes needs some work on creating the clarity around that shared vision so that everyone can bring their greater purpose to that. What do you think about that, John?
Yeah, I was thinking about EMC and Dell, because I was brought in when they merged together, and I was there with their leadership teams, helping them become a stronger team. And that's what we did. We used this model, and we talked about your shared vision, your greater purpose, your North Star. Where are you all going together now? Like, okay, you were here yesterday, but where are you going together now? And we discussed that, and they all left much more connected and committed to being a part of the team to work towards that North Star. So every team has to have a North Star of where they're going and why they're going there. So as a team, you want to make sure that you're bringing your team together and you're talking about, where are we going? What do we want to accomplish together? What is our North Star? And then you get everyone to buy in. That's what we used to do with the energy bus, right? Bus tickets. Are you on the bus? Are you moving toward this North Star? Amy, by the way, helped me write the field guide with the energy bus field guide. So she knows a lot about North Stars and driving the bus forward. And so what you do now is you come together towards that North Star, and then everyone is now working in the same direction. A lot of times we call that alignment. We just have to get everyone aligned on the team. The leader drives the process, but everyone on the team has to be committed to it. Yeah, there's some background noise when, for some reason, I'm there when I'm, I don't know what it is, but anyway, I'm hearing it. But anyway, so I think that's really the key in terms of team focus all working together towards a North Star. And again, it's difficult, but that's why we do what we do. That's why we come in and work with companies on this. That's why we have consulting. That's why we have workshops to get everyone on the same page to teach them how to implement these principles. You can read the book, but then sometimes you need a coach. Sometimes you need a guide that moves you in that direction. And we work with the leaders and their teams to help them do that.
You're absolutely right. I think that many of the organizations that I've worked with, they have an idea of what needs to happen, and it is a discipline to learn how to do those things. So it's very important to have someone you can lean on that has watched these things happen before and can help along the way as a part of the team. And one of the things that has worked with a lot of organizations, people always say, how, and we're talking about using the model around communication and connection plans. Another way when we're talking about shared vision is we've done with quite a few companies is the one word activity to make sure that there is clarity. The leader can share a one word, a company can have one word for change that's occurring. And individuals can come together around the clarity and focus from one word. So I know that you've worked with many companies and done that. And very recently, the organizations you're referencing and some of the clients that I'm working with currently, they're looking at one word as a piece of how to communicate the shared vision and the North Star.
Yeah, we incorporate the one word into all of our work. And I know there's a lot of educators on here as well. And I can't tell you how many schools have used the one word concept to have all their teachers come up with their words for the year. Even students are now coming up with their words. I'm actually writing a book, One Word for Kids, with Dan and Jimmy, our friends who are your good friends as well. And so we're doing this one word concept. And when everyone on the team shares their word, did it the other night with a very large company, and had them come up with their words at this awards dinner. It was so powerful as each person shared. And you heard each person's word, and it just created a connection in that moment. So it's a great way to come together as a team, hear each other's words, but then you have these words now that you can live together in the course of the year and work together on in the course of the year. So, I haven't seen many things besides one word that's that powerful. It's one of the most powerful, simplest things you can do on a team, in a school, a sports team, a company, do that.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. And another benefit of that activity is that even the most kind of trepidant CEOs and executives that I've worked with, that they were a little worried about this, just, is that activity something that's going to be hard hitting enough for what we need to do? And they're now some of the biggest fans of things like that because of the simplicity and because of what it uncovers. When you do activities like that as a team, it really gives you a lot of beneficial information about the people that are driving your organization, whatever type of team that is. There's a lot of insight. And then by you as a leader sharing something like that, it helps to strengthen the direction and the vision and the clarity that everyone has. So it is a great activity. And the thing that comes up the most when out of all the different principles and practices that are referenced in the book, and you started talking about things, some of the practices like deciding to be vitamin C and investing in the root and, all the different things that we talk about through working and having sessions with leaders and their team. The thing that comes up is difficult conversations, right, Jon? Everybody wants to know how to do this. And what do you do when a difficult conversation has to happen? And in the book and in the model, I know you're getting warmed up over there, I can tell. It's without a doubt one of the biggest questions. And again, I would go to, there is no algorithm to tell you exactly how to do this. The one thing we can share and we do help with is the fact that those conversations make everyone stronger. They don't always go the way you can prepare. There are different best practices to prepare for success. The work that you've done up to the point when you have to have a difficult conversation, like building trust and relationships, having been a regular practitioner of communication and connection and commitment and caring, those things will have built the right platform for you to be able to have the quote difficult conversations. I often call them with the teams that I work with, business conversations, because it's everything is just a conversation about how you make something better and stronger. And all of the team gets more effective as you just adjust your mind to realize that those are going to happen. You got to expect them. In the book, it even talks about it. And we talk to people and their teams about, you need to be expecting that difficult conversations are going to come up, and you need to be ready. And some of the things that I already referenced, when you're looking at this model, and you will get these materials. I still have people asking, if you'll get these materials, and you'll also get the recording of the webinar. And when you go to have those conversations, if you've already set your mind, and there's plenty of research, and we use this research when we work with teams, that says, you need to think differently about those conversations. They're an opportunity. They are an opportunity to grow your team, to get stronger personally, to get stronger as an individual and as a leader, and to not be scared of something that is actually an opportunity. And so that when they come, after you've built communication, you've built connection, you've been doing the things that need to be done. And sometimes you haven't even done those things. You still have to have the conversation, because the conversations will help make you stronger. And that's why we call it positive conflict. It's going to happen. And you have to be ready as a team about how you're going to address that, and the fact that you will address those things. Right, John?
Oh, totally. As you're saying that, Amy, I'm thinking it all works together, because you have to build the relationships and the communication and the connection and commitment that builds the trust that allows you to have those difficult conversations. So you can't just have conflict without the trust. So you have to make sure that you're following the model, developing the relationships, building a great culture, building a strong team, and then say, in the course of us being a great team, we have to have these conversations if we want to be great. We have to have conflict in order to get better. We call it positive conflict, because conflict doesn't have to be bad. You said it, Amy. People are scared of conflict. They're scared of confrontations and having these conversations, because we haven't created the environment that fosters them and allows them to truly help the team. So any couple that's been to therapy, and my wife and I have, many years ago, it allows you to learn to have those conversations, to be able to communicate. And every team has to have that. So as part of your culture, you say, hey, we're going to have some conflict. We're going to have difficult conversations. Most teams, the best teams, have a 3-to-1 positive to negative interaction, 3-to-1 or greater, 5-to-1, 7-to-1. If you get to 13-to-1, the team falls apart, because no one's having those difficult conversations. So we're not saying 5-to-0, 7-to-0. Notice we have to have some conflict and difficult conversations. So we say as a team, we're going to have them in order to grow and get better. We have to move from like to love. And the way you move from like to love is through intimacy and through going deeper and dealing with the real issues that exist. And only then can you become a truly great and strong team. But I love, like, my friend who works with the Seattle Seahawks, Michael Gervais, they talk about Tell the Truth Mondays. And every Monday, they're going to have difficult conversations about how they can get better. But everyone knows to expect it. Everyone knows it's part of the culture. So you have to set the tone and say, this is how we do things here. We will have difficult conversations. We're going to have conflict in a good way. But we're not going to call people out in a negative way. We're not going to scream. We're not going to yell. These are the rules of engagement. And once you create those rules of engagement and you create an environment for the conversations to take place, now they will help you be successful. If you just go and say, we're going to have conflict, no, that's not going to work. We have to make sure that we set it up. I remember years ago, my wife came up to me and she said, you need to be a better dad. You need to be a better dad. Like, you need to do some things to get better. This is early on in our marriage when our kids were young. And instead of getting negative, I remember I said, okay, make me better. Make me better. I am open. 3 hours later, after she was giving me all the advice, it wasn't 3 hours, I'm just joking, but after she gave me a lot of the tips, I took a couple of the top ones and I implemented them. And I got better because of that. What happens if we say to our teams, I'm open, make me better, give me constructive feedback, I'm open. So all these things are how we get better as a team.
Yeah, and you're talking about actionable steps that teams can take. It can seem very theoretical, but the power is in the application of all the things that we're talking about around this model, the consistent application of them. And one thing that I've noticed has been very impactful with the teams we work with, and I suggest for everyone, is really to be intentional around saying, we've made the decision to decide not to let negativity sabotage our team. So as a part of that decision, it's almost like a declaration. And if that is a part of your culture, that, there's a known communication that we've made that decision as an organization, as a team, we will not let negativity sabotage us. That's one of the first steps. And that is a practice that we talk about working through the model. And then, the next thing is exactly what you said happened with your wife, which people are a little, again, nervous about, but that person or that piece of the team has the opportunity to transform. Because people always say, how do you do this, Amy? How do I do it? And I know that's what people would like to know on this webinar, this part of our team. They want to know, how do I do all these things? How do I make them come alive? And there are always nuances for different organizations, but these principles and practices put in place and consistently managed and continuously implemented, they do transform things. And so that person gets the opportunity to transform. And those transformations come through, guess what we were just talking about, through communicating and having the, quote, difficult conversation. It all works together inside that team model, where if you're dedicated and committed to the team, you will step up to address the negativity, decide not to let it sabotage, have the conversation, and then guess what? I'm going to tell you another thing that you can do. And I know that it's not easy, but it makes everyone stronger. If the transformation doesn't occur, eventually you have to take that piece of, you have to remove negativity from your team, right, Jon? And those are hard decisions, but that also can strengthen a team, because the people that are impacted, if you've decided not to let negativity sabotage your team, then you need to be willing and able and prepared and ready to communicate that is not going to be there, and be prepared to remove the negativity if you have to.
Yep. And there was just a question that said, what practices do we use for that? Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to be promotional, but it's in the book. So if you read the book, some people on this webinar, they probably haven't read the book. I mean, you read the book, you're going to have a lot of ideas of what you need to do. And then from there, you're going to come up with your own ideas. We have a lot of people that read the book. We share a bunch of practices and ideas, but then also it gives them ideas for their own practices. So if you haven't read the book, I encourage you to read the book. There's also an action plan that comes with it that allows you to take practice. But I mean, the practice would be a weekly team building session. You're gonna have once a week where you have a Tell the Truth Monday, or a Tell the Truth Wednesday, whatever it may be, where you talk about how we can get better. You're gonna have constant feedback mechanisms where you can share ways that we can improve. You're gonna have communication and connection exercises that allows you to communicate better as a team and connect more. Someone asked about the one word earlier, like how do you apply that to your North Star and your mission and purpose? I love that question, because the one word that you have should be the word that you want to live to contribute to your team, to make your team great. So your one word gives you meaning and mission, passion and purpose, which then allows you to bring your passion and purpose to the organization so that you can achieve your organization's purpose, your team's purpose. So it all flows together in how you put this into practice. So again, we're doing this webinar. You can only say so much in a matter of 45 minutes. But you need the power of a positive team, do the action plan. We also have workshops. Amy does a ton of workshops around the country. You can reach out to Amy. We have consulting where Amy comes in and works with your leader and your team to come together as a strong team. You can do that. Again, we're just offering services to help teams become stronger. Whatever you need in that level, we're here to help. And this webinar is one of the things we want to be able to provide, to give you some tools that you can do to take action. And some just read the book, and that's all they need. Like, all right, I got it. Read the book, I got it. Others need a little more help. So we're here for that.
Yes, and we're talking through, I know everyone wants to get actionable, and I love that. And John and I are all about results and helping to provide some insights. And when you do look at the model, when it comes through from the materials, it is a guideline of, okay, look inside what we're saying. Each chapter in the book has a principle, and then underneath it are a whole list of practices. And we're talking about a few of them, but those are different ways, because when we were talking about culture and merging two different teams, or doing the things that need to happen for organizations, you as a part of that team will need to help shape some of the aspects of how you address the current situation. So there's a little bit of artistry. It's exciting. There's a little bit of artistry inside being because the principles and practices work, because they're proven through John's work, I've seen them now inside multiple companies and teams. And the way that you activate them does take some fine tuning from the team itself, deciding and going through those different inventory processes and making that decision not to let negativity sabotage them.
And someone just said, I'm going to have feedback Fridays. I love that. Like, what a great,
yeah. Ideas are happening now.
Yeah, feedback Fridays. Like, what a great concept. So everyone can now use that if you want feedback Friday. So what Amy and I learned is that, the genius is not in our head. The genius is in the team. The genius comes together through a great team. We talk about Project Aristotle and Google, and they wanted to know what made their most inventive teams inventive, what made them great, what made them creative, what made them produce these incredible revenue producing businesses. And they found that it wasn't the rock star scientists, it wasn't the A teams that were their best teams, it was actually their B teams. And their B teams had emotional safety, psychological safety. They were able to share ideas back and forth freely. And from there, they unleashed the genius in the team. So the team is always the genius. It's not inside our own heads. It's what we share and learn from each other. And I just saw Feedback Fridays, and I'm like, boom, that is brilliant. I think it was Robin Ramirez who said it. Great credit to her. And I love it. All right, let's move forward with positive discontent.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. So a big piece of what you're doing right now, you're on this webinar because you're wanting to bring things into your team. You activate those as a person who's trying to build a stronger, more connected team. And part of the things, I'm going to get to positive disconnect, but the first thing is you can state them, go back and just like we have this Feedback Fridays, go back and say, we've made a decision not to let negativity sabotage our team. We're going to give and receive feedback with a different mindset. And it's been proven through research, we have neuroplasticity available in our brains. We can change, we can learn, we can do things differently. And the beginning of that is training your brain to think differently about some of these things that people are scared of or think are negative, when they're really opportunities to get stronger and to make things better. And that's why when you look at the power of a positive team, you do see people who are hyper-focused on that opportunity that always exists to get better. John mentions in the book, and we talk with the most high-performing teams already. And like he said, we've talked to some companies who have phenomenal cultures, but what are they focused on? Taking advantage of that 1%, that next 1% of effectiveness. And the way that you do that, you have to have a specific plan, approach, and institutionalize, or programatize in your organization a way that that's a priority. And a lot of times, what does that look like? It looks like someone owning it and being accountable, and the team deciding that it's going to be a priority and instituting things like Feedback Fridays and talking about having regular conversations, whether it be monthly or quarterly, saying, what are we going to do to get better? How do we make that a part of our process? How do we make that a part of our DNA and who we are? And different organizations that we work with, they do that in different ways. And we have meetings about that. We have, record keeping. It's really an opportunity for people to be innovative and also to just embrace the fact that no matter how great you are, there's always a little bit more available. And that's a good thing. That's positive discontent. Being happy with the great success and the practices that you already have in place, but reserving a spot inside your team to say, how will we regularly pursue additional effectiveness together? And what are the things that we do to make sure that that's a priority?
Yeah, I love that, because when we're winning, it's been said that winning is a great deodorant. It may cover up what stinks about our team. So you might be having success. You might be making your numbers. The standardized test scores might be great, but underneath, your culture might be suffering. You might not be investing in the root. So then you're getting fruit right now, but eventually that tree will rot, that root will rot, because you're not dealing with the real issues underneath. And so always getting better means, and positive discontent means, that you're never satisfied with just the results. You're always looking to get better. And then also, when you have adversity and challenges, positive discontent means that you stay positive through the adversity and the challenges to strive to get better. So the positive discontent of unhappy with the loss, unhappy with the setback, but the optimism that tomorrow will be better, the best is yet to come, moves you forward towards that. So let's go some real life examples now. I love this in terms of, let's make it very practical. Let's answer some questions of people and,
Sure.
and get real specific to it.
Yes, and I think that's a part of continuous improvement. That's why we moved into this piece and these questions, is because you will have these things occur in your team, and then you will address them, and then you will have them happen again. They're not done, and you're always getting better at how you work through team challenges, and that better equals stronger. So again, first of all, everyone, no one should feel alone, because a lot of us deal with the same different difficult, quote, conversations and difficult situations as a team. And the high performing teams that we've seen are the ones who go ahead and address and do different things. So there will be people, we've talked about a lot of these, and the model itself addresses every single question that we got, because dealing with issues when teams appear not to like each other, and creating alignment when individuals do not seem to respect each other. We've talked a little bit about what the answer to that is, what is your culture? Who do you want to be? What has that been communicated? These different people, are they, to use Jon's words, are they on the bus? And it is a responsibility of the team to determine either there's going to be transformation in the way that people are treating each other, or there's going to be a removal of negativity. And in between those two things, there's quite a bit of communication, conversations, trust building, prioritization of the team's mission and vision and North Star. Where are you headed? Are you all in agreement with that? Do you have that shared vision and greater purpose inside of it? And then having the conversations. And it takes time. There's no shortcut, because building a strong team it has to be intentional, just like the book says, and there's no quick fix for anything. It takes the communication and the relationship. So you need to address the issue, you need to have the conversations, you need to give them the opportunity to respect each other, make it clear that that's a priority for the team, give them examples of how, space, time, and then be ready and prepared to remove any of the negativity if it doesn't work.
Yeah, totally. Do we want to go down the steps?
Yeah, sure. I think that the idea of creating a positive culture when the team does not appear to support the importance of that, one of the things that really helps with doing this type of activity is sometimes just starting with the evidence. There's evidence that research-based evidence and data that shows that a positive culture yields more successful, more engaged, more productive, more impactful teams. And there are multiple research elements cited in the book. And then as you do research yourself as a practitioner of building teams, you can find that everywhere. And you also have to communicate that this is a priority and that that's something that we want everyone to be involved in. And if someone or something struggles with that for too long, that will be a decision that you have to make. Is that person really on board? And is that a person that is bought into what the team is doing? But it takes time, it takes communication, it takes clarity on what you're moving toward, and then having those conversations and moving forward.
Yeah, I want to answer getting the team to help proactively manage negativity and eliminating gossip and drama. And
Mhm.
you have to do that at the cultural level. You have to say as a team that this is how we do things here. So you get together and you talk about the cost of negativity, how it affects a team. And when you do it at the cultural level, everyone really understands what the issues are. They understand what's going to be allowed and what's not allowed. So you have to set the tone that says, we will not allow negativity to sabotage our team. This is how we're going to handle it. This is what we need from you and each person and how to address it. So gossip will not be allowed. Complaining will not be allowed. We will not allow drama. This will be a drama-free zone. People always ask, how do we do that? You do it at the cultural level as a team that comes together with a leader and says, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to do it. And then when people are doing it, you now address it. There's a company I know, they created the no complaining rule. The no complaining rule says you're not allowed to complain unless you come with a solution. So no complaints unless you come with a solution. And so just by doing that, you now eliminate mindless complaining. You encourage innovative ideas, solutions that then lead to greater success. And a company that implemented this, that created this, PPR, one of the fastest growing companies in terms of their staffing, great success, great workplace, great culture. And so again, a very practical way, but you address it at the cultural level. I get this question all the time. It's like, no one's having conversations. A coach reached out the other day saying, we're not very connected as a team. What should we do? I said, well, I want you to do this. I want you to have a conversation with your team and talk about how everyone's disconnected. I want you to talk about ways you can be more connected. 3 hours later, she said it was unbelievable. So it was really just about coming together and having the conversations, setting up the culture. And what we did in this book is we created a framework of this is what makes great teams great. We did it in a way that leaders and teams would read it together so that they would know what they need to do. So it helps build the culture. If everyone's reading the same thing, talking about the same things, and understanding what's important. And so that's one of the things how you do. We talked about how to merge two different teams. We talked about connecting teams that are in geographic locations. I think is a great question. Amy, do you have any experience with virtual teams and what teams do when they're not working together? I love this concept, and it's a very common problem today.
Yes, it is a common problem. And I have worked with teams that have had this challenge quite a bit, especially when teams are in London, they're in India, they're in, Asia, and time zones impact, and people's feelings get hurt because the meetings are always at a time that's convenient for one person versus another, or one location versus another. And just like you're saying, and I know, I go back to it a lot because I know that people want results and they want actionable strategies. And it does boil down to the C's that are inside that star. And then as a team leader or a team member, activating those things. The way that I worked with a couple different teams who had geography challenges at the same time, they were merging two organizations. So they had multiple different cultural conflicts and challenges. It really was addressing, clearly stating to everyone that we were going to improve the situation together, that we wanted it to work, and then deciding on a time frame, building a plan that was transparent, figuring out ways to have meetings that took into account everyone's different considerations. People would still be inconvenienced sometimes, but everyone knew what the plan was. Everyone knew that their considerations had been respectfully addressed and they were in that together. And it took time. It took about 12 months to fully move through, which isn't, I know a year seems like a long time, but in order to get everyone to kind of drop the hurt and the bitterness and the pain and the fear and the things that were sabotaging them from moving forward, and then come to a plan that they agreed on, and then communicating that plan, and then also through the process, tweaking it and deciding what was working and what was actually helping, and communicating and continuously being committed to that idea of continuous improvement. And those things are very important. So those challenges are real for our teams now, different time zones, different geographies, different cultures, mergers, acquisitions, and the things that we do when we work with teams is move through the model, taking action, and just making sure that we're continuously addressing and communicating through it all.
Yeah, I want to add to that, Amy. I think it would be a great idea to say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do we communicate? And you ask
Mhm.
everyone on the team, and then you just simply say, what would make it a 10? And you're going to get a lot of great ideas from everyone that would make it a 10. And then you can start to implement those ideas as a team. I also recommend with virtual teams that you try to find time every day to connect with one person on your virtual team a day. Connect in a meaningful way, whether it's a Skype, FaceTime, a call, more than important than email. So more than just email, find some way to connect with the people on your team. Nothing will ever replace the in-person heart-to-heart connection. We have to be honest about that. But we have to find ways to connect at other levels and in other ways to be able to do that. I love this other question on the generational differences on a team. That's a very common question as well, because people learn differently. People just come from different generations and how they do things. And the millennials are known for wanting relationships. They're wanting a bigger purpose. I truly believe the millennials actually will make us better leaders and make our teams better, because you can no longer ignore them. You have to have a bigger purpose as a team. It's so important to do that. So I have found that when you address the millennials' concerns and try to create a team that helps them be great and creates an environment where they can be great, it actually makes everyone better. So I'm a big believer in, let's have more engaged teams. Let's have better relationships. Let's have a purpose, because a millennial doesn't just want to show up for a paycheck. They want to have meaning and mission. So let's give them that. That will make everyone on the team better. But when you have generational differences too, it doesn't matter what generation you are. Do we want the same things?
That is such a good point. Very important, John, because, when people feel lumped into a group, I'm a huge champion for millennials, and I'm sure there are plenty of others on this webinar that are as well. And I'm a huge champion for any generation. And when you come with a preconceived notion, people can feel it. And in dealing with, I've worked a lot with generational challenges inside the workplace and people who've made predeterminations about other people, and really opening up mindset through that communication and connection and building trust. There's been huge progress, and I continue to look forward to all the work, because guess what? I have twins that are 15. I've got a 10-year-old and an 11-year-old, and Gen Z is coming up next. And they have new and great things to bring to our teams. And the great teams that know how to build a culture that values all that diversity are going to, again, it's the power that we unlock through addressing and communicating in those relationships. So I know that there are other great questions. We are going to continue to have forums where we talk about these different things. We're coming up on the end of our time. And, John and I as a team, we're here to drive value for you. We want you to be able to walk away with new actionable insights, one or two things that you can do with your team, one or two things that you can start to activate yourself. And we encourage you to continue to send questions. You can engage with us through the website, the consulting website. You'll get follow-up materials from this webinar, and we're happy to work with you. We're excited to work with you and build our positive teams together. It is an important mission. It is a very profitable one. And when I say that, I don't mean money. I mean the profit that comes from a job well done. I mean, what John closes the book with, is talking about a legacy and leaving a legacy of more connected, more united individuals in the workplace, in their sports teams, in our communities, is a worthy vision and North Star. And we thank you for being on that path with us, because these principles and practices are things that we can activate. There are actionable examples. There'll be more to come, and it'll be exciting as we see this take root in our world and in our work.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Amy, so much for all that you contribute and all that you share. I want to close with the fact that there are 5 Ds that will sabotage your team: division, discouragement, distraction, distortion, lies, and doubt. And those 5 Ds will take any team down and hurt you and your family in the process, your family team. But if you can understand these principles and create unity, which is what we're all about, encouragement, focus on what matters most to avoid distraction, speak truth to those lies, and create clarity and focus, which is essential, and then trust as a team, you and your team will accomplish amazing things. We are passionate about building stronger teams. I hope you recognize that in us. That's why we're doing this. And if we can help you in any way, let us know. The foundation of our country and our world are relationships, it's families, it's businesses, it's schools, it's communities, it's the world, and we are better together. So while the world is trying to divide, let's all come together and unite and accomplish amazing things together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we, maybe great job, by the way, we're still on. So
Oh, okay.
I don't know, I think I'm supposed to end the meeting right now. Okay, so let's do that. You're awesome.
Okay.
Great job. You're so knowledgeable. So, I mean, you just share so much great information.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope that everyone, got some value. Thank you to you. And we have a big vision. So I am excited to seeing it get further activated.
Let's do it. All right, I'm going to end it right now. Here we go.